So let's see what I'm going to talk about today. My thoughts are disorganized, wonderfully chaotic, but thinking about the same thing that I always think about, which I'm calling enlightenment. That word often still comes up for me with a sense of cringe. It's a terrible word from my point of view at this point, mostly because of its associations. It's also a great word from the standpoint of it's a word that represents what I was seeking and then I found. Many years ago, I think there actually have been quite a few points where I've reached stages in my life where I felt needless. I felt that I could be okay with how things were, no matter how things were. And, just sort of that deep, radical acceptance. And I remember wondering to myself, am I enlightened? Does that mean I'm enlightened? Because this is pretty good. This is pretty nice. And then I guess I didn't really know what enlightenment was, what was meant by enlightenment. Other than I thought that, being in a place where everything was acceptable sounded about right. So I remember looking it up and finding Reddit posts. I think the search term I put in was, how do I know if I'm enlightened? And I started reading about all these things like, feeling that you are one with everything, that there's no separation, that everything is ultimately love, a supreme, imperturbable peace, all these things. And I was like, okay, shit, none of that's happening here, so I guess I'm not enlightened. And and I guess it made me want to find out what enlightenment was. All those pieces didn't necessarily have to fall into place in order for me to say, yes, this is it. This is it, I'm enlightened. And I realized that, I could have said, yes, this is it at that time. I could have read all those things and I could have said, I don't need any of those things. This is all fine just as it is. So I can call that being enlightened. But that's not what happened. What happened was more seeking. What happened was, okay, I want that state. I want what they're talking about. I want, yeah, sure, accepting everything, that's fine and all, but this seems even better. I want that better thing. So that's what happened. And that's the difference to me between being enlightened and not being enlightened. So when I finally decided to embrace the term, actually even before I even decided to embrace the term, when I had the realization, I suppose, that I had found what I was looking for, that this was it, that there was no more needed, that this was obvious and easy. Not everything was there. Particularly, I didn't find it easy to recognize that everything is unconditional love. It's not a way that I saw things. what it was for me was just the recognition that if I look for the self, I'm not going to be able to find it. And that was just so clear that looking for the self was all but gone. So it's not completely gone because it would still happen, but or sometimes I suppose the habit of seeking would arise, but then the thought, you're not going to find it, so why bother? Would sometimes just knock me off the path of seeking, and then sometimes I would be like, you know what, I'm going to look for it again, and wouldn't find it. That I could do that with time, same thing. Just came to the acceptance of, you know what, I'm not going to find it, so I don't even have to look for it. Or I can look for it, and either way, I'm not going to find it. So the tension of self, the tension of time, quickly unraveling, quickly fading. So those would be the main two things. Another one was if I try to find the me that's not at peace, which, I had already determined there's no self, but I won't be able to find that me, right? I'll only be able to find what is at peace with everything. That all of this is free, right? Unconditional freedom. That one's been easy for me for a long time. So those things, recognizing that anytime I looked for those things, I would have the same results. And that becoming sort of a lived part of my regular daily mindset. I realized that would last. That would be permanent. There would be nothing that could break that. And that was enough. That was all I needed. No need to look for anything else. Now, would I still be thinking about it? Absolutely, because I love it. Absolutely love it. More importantly, it loves me. And that is something that came to me probably just about a week ago, making one of these videos. So if I had wanted to keep seeking, I would have said, I still don't know how to find unconditional love. Another one that could have kept me seeking for a while was this idea that I am everything, everything is me, there is no center. Even though I couldn't find a self, I still felt like I could not be in that state. I could get to that state. And I think, for a long time I mistook enlightenment for a mental state. But when I started realizing that it is all mental states, then I realized there was no need to look for that anymore. There was no need to look for anything else. That this was good enough, this is amazing, I can claim this, I can claim enlightenment, and I can stop seeking. I can stop searching for anything else. And that is the main thing. Was the relief of no longer seeking. And in a way, I say could have. There is no could have. Could have is a false notion. But, I say that I could have at that first question of, am I enlightened? Before I had learned about all these other things and studied and listened to other gurus on the internet, I could have at that point said, you know what? Doesn't matter. I'm going to stop seeking right now. I could have claimed that as enlightenment. Again, could have is a false notion. Obviously, I couldn't have, and I didn't. And whatever you do, whatever form seeking takes for you, it's exactly what should be happening. So all those moments were exactly as they should be, even if at the time I didn't recognize them as such. So yeah, unconditional love. That's clear to me now. I see it that way. I think that maybe once the seeking stopped, some of these other things became easier. Because when you're not looking for them, you can realize that they're there, or realize what's meant by them. And there were times when I kind of got to an idea of unconditional love or defined it in some way, but now it's just, there's this word love that we don't really know what it means. This other word wanting, we don't really know what it means because we associate it with the individual, and the individual doesn't exist. But then the individual is recognized to not be there, and somehow what the word love, what the word wanting, those words still evoke the same thing. But they don't evoke it for the individual that you cannot find anymore. So it's just evoked for this, right? This is doing exactly what it wants to do. This loves everything that is happening. It is, I don't know, pure loving consciousness. I have a little bit of issue with the word consciousness, but but it is, everything that is, and all that is what you are conscious of, even though it's not you who are conscious of anything, is what's wanted. It's what's loved. It's automatic. You want it and you love it, and because of that, that's what happens. And no one ever could have explained that to me.